We can't gather in person this year, but we've adapted. The 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival brings the best in film from across the globe and around the corner. And this year, it's all virtual, so the films and events are coming directly to you. Join us for the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival, October 15th through the 29th. More information is at mkefilm.org/MFF.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Day 12 of the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival presented by Associated Bank. I'm Kara, the Artistic Director at Milwaukee Film, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to this afternoon's event, a conversation with Kris Rey. We'll be joined in just a moment by the director of our opening night film, I Used to Go Here, Kris Rey, back. We did a Q&A, we talked about the film, and this afternoon we're going to hear a little bit more about Kris's career, Kris's process, and all that good stuff that goes into making a film like I Used to Go Here and so many other films. Before we get into that, though, I have some housekeeping kinds of reminders. Since I don't get to see you all multiple times every day, I'm here to remind you to cast your votes for the Alan H. Budd and Suzanne L. Sealey Audience Awards. To vote, you're just going to go to the page for the film or the shorts program that you may have seen at watch.mkefilm.org. Log in with your pass or with your ticket code, and you'll see a button on that page for the film that says Vote Here. Click through that. You'll be presented with a form to register your vote. And audience awards mean quite a bit to filmmakers, so I do want to encourage you to make sure your vote counts for every film that you see during this year's festival. Audience award honors mean sometimes more than jury award honors because they know that filmmakers know that their film has resonated with an audience. This year, more than ever, I know they are longing for sort of feedback from y'all. So please don't forget to vote through the 29th, and then next week there's another election. You should also not forget to vote in that one. As you've seen, we have a double up challenge happening during this year's festival. Thanks to the generosity of Judith McGregor and Richard Galloon, if we raise $75,000 during this year's festival, they will double it. There's a couple ways you can help us out on that goal. You can text double up to 44321 as you see scrolling. You can go to our website, mkefilm.org/donate, and you can give any amount that makes sense for you in your particular context in those ways. You can also join us as a member. Those of you who've been thinking about becoming a Milwaukee Film member and supporting us year-round, membership is also doubled, as are your roundups when you're buying tickets, as are renewals for those of you who are members and who are set to expire during this month. If you renew during the festival, it'll be doubled. Lots of different ways to help us support us in achieving that goal. As of this morning, we're about 84% of the way there, which is great, except that we only have a few more days of the film festival to go, and we've been pacing not there. So if you're hearing my message and you have a couple extra dollars, please do consider giving them to us to help us make our year-round mission occur. It's a tough year for all of us, so I get it. You may not have the same kinds of finances that you had, but if you do have a little bit to throw our way, we would super appreciate it because it would get doubled. Our members really help us achieve our mission, whether virtually or in person, the whole year round. They help us bring filmmakers into classrooms. They help us do programs like this for free that help filmmakers think more about their craft. They help us bring great films to the screen. And we get free films and discounts and all sorts of good stuff as well. So members out there, I want you to know that we really appreciate you and your support. And if you're not yet a member, please do consider joining us and do it before the 29th so that it gets doubled. All right. So without further ado, I want to turn us to why y'all are here and watching. I'd like to welcome Kris Rey, director of I Used to Go Here, as well as our moderator for this afternoon's conversation, Carol Brandt. Hello.
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 Hi.
Welcome, everyone, and Kris. Yeah, great to virtually meet you, and excited to talk about making movies and specifically how you like to make movies.
Cool. I like that you have just this box behind you that says fragile.
It's great. It's my one piece of decoration in this room. So
I know, it's like literally the only clue. Like your personality. It's great.
My Chinese food, which makes it even more circumstantial. Yeah, so I loved your film. I just watched it last night. I wanted it to be fresh, but yeah, this obviously isn't your first film. You've been making them for a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, my first question is how it all started, how you got into it. Like, did the bug bite you?
I guess I was in high school. I was in high school in Germantown, Tennessee, which is like a suburb of Memphis. And there was I was part of like the sort of television program. They had like a TV station that was like a community TV station that I was a part of. And that was when I sort of opened my eyes to like the fact that you could even do that really as a job. And I remember just like liking that and thinking that was cool, and deciding I was a pretty bad student in high school academically, and I just didn't care too much about trying to get into a good college, but I did want to get away from my parents, who are lovely people, but I was just a teenager, and I decided to apply to Southern Illinois University, though I did not live in Illinois, and obviously Southern Illinois University is not like a well-known film school, but I knew that it was only 3 hours away from where I lived, and there were some students that I knew from the year prior that had been going there, and I just like knew I could get in, basically, like without having to write any essays or taking my SATs. So I did that for that reason, which is like the laziest reason to go to a college ever. But I did. I went there and I attended the film school there, and it was really, I mean, college is really cool. Going away to college is great, and I had a great experience there, and it's an interesting film school because they were at the time, this was 1999 was my freshman year, 1999, 2000. And this was when the advent of digital video was like really kicking off, and it was becoming really possible to work with digital video, and make a feature film on digital video was like a brand new idea. And the film school was behind the time, so everyone was still working on actual film. And our first film class, we shot Super 8, and then your like film 2 class, you're shooting on 16. And at the time, I remember thinking it was so they were so old fashioned, and that it was like it would be so much better to be at like a better school that was using digital video and like had Final Cut Pro set up in all of the labs. But we were really editing negative. We were like cutting negative, and we were using Steambex. And now, of course, I realized like how unique that experience was. And I'm so glad that they had not caught up to like sort of digital video yet, because it gave me the opportunity for like my foundations to be actually in film.
Yeah.
So that was like cool. And then when I was in film school, I focused on documentary. I thought I wanted to be a documentarian. But really what I was still very interested in was not like social issues necessarily, but human behavior, and relationships. And ultimately, and I did that all through college. I just, all my projects were documentaries. And then after school is when I sort of started getting into narrative film for the first time.
Yeah, and I can see that in your work too. It's very there's something that you can tell that you're very fascinated by, like the human spirit and like how humans interact with each other. I think is really cool. Was there like a certain film that you saw that kind of like flipped a switch for you that made you think like, oh, it's not all artificial and this can like have the same vibe that draws me into documentaries? Like, was there a certain filmmaker?
I remember there wasn't a film. There were like two big factors. One is that I started to realize that that documentaries, in order to really and this is like, I don't even know if this statement is like generally true, but this is like what I found for myself, is that in order to really capture like pure human like nature, you had to almost have like a secret, like a hidden camera or something. Like I just like, I started to understand how what an impact it had on people to have a camera in front of them, and how obvious. I mean, I'm still a huge fan of documentaries, and obviously there's so many incredible documentaries that have captured so many true moments and honest moments, but people are affected by a camera being there, and there's a sort of performance that like made me uncomfortable, and a kind of manipulation by the filmmaker that I was uncomfortable in that role also. I used it, but I was uncomfortable by it. And it just felt like invasive to me in a way that I don't know. Yeah, I started not wanting to do it. I stopped losing kind of my passion for it. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is my boyfriend at the time, who later became my husband, whose name is Joe Swanberg, was very motivating and very, very driven. And he, right after film school, we moved to Chicago, and with a couple of other friends that we knew, we made a movie, and Joe really spearheaded that. It was a movie called Kissy on the Mouth. And he was like, you know, we were probably out of school for like 6 months only. And I was sort of like, how do I survive? I think I was working in the Chicago Film Festival at the time, but when I first moved to the city, I was working at Potbelly Sandwiches. I was just like 22, you know, we were just like, not knowing really like how to even just like survive in a city and pay rent and stuff. And Joe was like, let's make something. And I was very, I felt stagnated, just like based on this idea, like, okay, well, if we're going to make a movie, we have to get a whole crew, and we have to write a script, and we have to get, you know, make storyboards and plan it all out. And Joe was like, no, let's just do it. Let's just make it with no script, just the four of us. And we did. And we spent maybe, you know, I don't know, 5 or 6 months making this movie that without any money. And we just did it when we were off work. And that film, Kissy on the Mouth, played at South by Southwest that year, in 2005, and that was definitely the launch of both of our careers. Yeah, was from that project. Yeah.
No, that's, yeah. It's been a while, but I did really like that when I first saw it.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, somehow I found out.
Interesting. I haven't watched it in years.
Like,
say it again.
You guys basically started a movement, like the
stuff
associated with mumblecore and that whole thing. I know your films are more scripted typically, but
now they are. So yeah, so in 2005, the year that we went with that movie, that was the year that the Duplass brothers' first feature was also playing at South by Southwest, and then, or maybe it was the following year, that Andrew Bujalski was one of the sort of like, people are, it definitely wasn't a movement in the way that like, in the way that we talk about like the Black Lives Matter movement, or even like, it's like, it wasn't like a movement where everyone kind of like was like, we're going to do this because we're all coming together to like do the same thing. It actually just felt like a big like coincidence kind of, because none of us knew each other, and then we all just met and had done stuff that was really similar, and we were working on improvised, like acting in yourselves, like really low budget, and again, like digital video was still interesting to people.
Right.
At that time. And a lot of sex was in Kissy and the Mouth. It was like very sexual, which became, certainly a through line to like Joe's work. But yeah. And then I continued, and we still did a little bit together, but I ended up making just my own work separate from Joe. And my first two features, also were unscripted. So it wasn't until my third feature, Unexpected, that I started writing scripts. And then I used to go here as scripted as well. And I feel a lot more comfortable in that vein.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about that switch? Like, did you write, when did you start writing scripts?
So my first thing I ever wrote was a short film I made in 2014 called Baby Mary, and then I started writing. Actually, maybe I had already started writing Unexpected, but I made those improvised films, which all turned out good. Like I liked those movies, but very different. And I was very frustrated during the editing process because I felt like I hadn't gotten everything I needed, and because it wasn't planned out at all. And also I didn't know what the hell I was trying to say or what the movie was going to be like, or how long it was going to be. I had like no idea. And like my first feature, which played in competition at South by Southwest, was only 63 minutes long. I had no idea. I wanted to make a movie in Costa Rica. I went down to Costa Rica with 3 of my friends, and we shot there for 3 weeks. And then we came back and edited it. And we had no idea like what we were doing really. And so writing scripts was a real, it felt a little bit like reinventing the wheel. I was like, I have an idea to how to plan this all out. I'll write a script. I find it, you can just work it off. It's like silly to talk about why scripts are good, but you plan it all out on paper and make sure it makes sense, and then you have a story there before you film it. So, I don't think I'll ever make, I probably won't make a fully improvised film again, but you never know, but probably not.
No, it is more gratifying to like have a vision and then see it happen. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like having kind of a more specific idea of what you want and then like how it changes, because script to screen is such a bitch to get through. Like, you have this initial idea and then seeing it go through all the filters of pre-pro, going from how you describe it to actors and then how the actors interpret it and then how the camera picks it up and how it changes in the edit room. Specifically with this last film, I'm curious to hear how that went for you, because you'd been writing the script for a while, right?
I wrote the script forever. With the first draft of the script was a male character. It was like a guy. I forget the guy's name, like Archie or something. It was like a guy about a guy that goes back to his old university. and I wrote like a few drafts of that script before I changed the gender. And then God, I mean, I think I rewrote that script so many times. Maybe there were like 14 drafts or something crazy. It was like a relief to be done and to like actually start casting and stuff, and then trying to raise money for it, or trying to find financing for it was a really long and exhausting process. And then finally we did, and thank God. And then we went in, we went and made it. And what do you want me to talk about?
I mean, like, you had this original idea. Like this person going back to alma mater, visiting the past, and so I'm assuming that was a through line throughout. Like that didn't change. Like
so I went, and I've told the story so many times it's so boring for me, but maybe interesting for someone that hasn't heard it. My last feature played Sundance in 2015, and I got invited. But between Sundance and it coming out like in theaters, I had this like 6-month period or something where I got invited to all these universities, and I was and I had never experienced that before, and I don't know, like 35 or something, and was like, cool, I'm cool. I'm like as cool as these kids. They all think I'm cool. Right? And they did. And I was like, this is great. Like hanging out with these college kids feels good. They all like adore me. And they all think I'm really successful, even though I'm not. But I'm like, seeing myself through their eyes, I am pretty successful. And it was like a real like ego boost. And I just got the idea that like, depending on where you were in your life, that could be really intoxicating, and like you might just want to stay there. And then that's the premise that inspired it. And so I wanted to write a movie about someone that kind of like experiences that, and also this character of this professor who's really like living that, who has decided to stay in that, to sort of like to stay in that intoxicating kind of like ego massage world for their lives. Like that's their choice. And I started writing this script before the Me Too movement. And then that kind of, and I even had this storyline about professor sleeping with the student, and then that kind of like informed Me Too movement, sort of like informed that a little bit too for me, where I was like, what makes someone do this, and so that's where the story was inspired from.
Yeah. So it makes a hell of a story, because I feel like a lot of people definitely experience that. I mean, I've visited a couple college classes at this point, and it's that same thing where like, well, you guys really think that I'm cool and like that I'm doing the thing I wanted to do? Because I mean, I feel like what a lot of people don't talk about though is that you still have to usually have a day job if you want to be an indie filmmaker, especially working out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be in between the two coasts. And
it's like insane. Even if you're on the coast, maybe even especially when you're on the coast, it's so hard to make actually like that's the only way you make a living is like crazy hard. Yeah. And very, very rare to be able to do.
I had a professor once that said that if you're not working in film, it's just a hobby. Like if that's not how you're making your money. And
it can go fuck yourself. I don't know who that person was.
But it was the worst advice I've ever gotten.
That's a person who's a professor for a living.
Yeah, that's the thing. So. Very good point. Jeez, oh man. I mean, but talking about like the massage of the ego and like how that's such a big part of this story. One thing I loved about like the last line of the film is how she says it could be better, you know, talking about her book, and that's such a huge thing in anything people like to do. Like everyone's scared to be bad at what they love to do.
Yeah.
It's like such a fear, and so I think that's a really a great point to make. And yeah, I was kind of wondering if you had ever like, I like to ask my friends what's the worst thing that they've made, and like if they why they think it's the worst thing that they've made.
Yeah.
Like, from it.
Yeah. Are you asking me what's the worst thing I've made?
Yeah. Or like what you think, because nobody, you know, we all view it differently.
You know, I don't know. It's gonna make it sound like really arrogant that I can't think of something.
No, I think that's great.
I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the worst thing is. I definitely have problems with everything.
Sure.
But in general, I mean, like here, I had like a big sort of like outlook change. I'm trying to remember when, maybe after Unexpected, where I all of a sudden stopped being so critical of other films and other filmmakers, because I realized it's just like it's a fucking miracle to finish anything. It's just like so many things can go wrong while you're making a movie, and it's such like a horrible, it's just like, I don't know. It's just so impressive that anyone finishes them at all, and that we have them. They're so hard to make, and they take so long, and so much effort by so many people, that I'm just like, anytime anyone finishes a film, I'm just like, way to go. It's like, wow, you made it through. Yeah. So I try to apply some of that to myself. And then I think okay, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to talk about what happened to me after I made this movie. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It's so rare that you see a movie that's perfect, and that even you think is perfect. And there's a million other people that don't think it's perfect. Sure. And you're like, you know, it's just cool. I don't know. There's always moments from everything that are like impactful and important and good. And you're really you're making a 90-minute movie or whatever. And if there's even one thing that you can pull out of it where you're like, wow, that moment like had an impact on me, that's great. But saying all that, I got like super depressed after making I Used to Go Here. I thought I saw the assembly cut, which is always a horrible thing to watch. And I was sure I made a terrible film, and spent the next, let me see, like it was wrapped in September, October, November. I spent the next 3 full months and like a total like spiral, like depression, anxiety, like storm, thinking I had made something bad. And I spent the whole time trying to improve it. I was editing. We wrapped in September. But I would just like go to sleep at night and be like, I fucked up. I made a bad movie. It's not good. It's not funny. And that was horrible. I really hope I don't go through that again, but I think I will. It's sort of happened with me with Unexpected too. It's just, you put so much effort and so many people work so hard, and then your editor or yourself like strings it all out in like a timeline, and it just is the worst. It's just the worst version of the movie you'll ever see. And yet it's like, it's your sort of reward for all that work. It's the product. And you're just looking at it and you're just like, oh no, I I fucked up. I don't know what other way to say it. But I eventually started to really like it, and now I think it's good.
I'm glad.
It took a long, horrible time. Yeah, it was really rough there for a while.
Goddamn journey. Jeez. God, I can't wait. 3 months of damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Not every day, but most days.
The mean vibe was.
Yeah. Depression. Yeah, total depression. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, so but as far as like the process of it, like now that you write and direct, do you edit your films?
No.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm editing right now. I'm editing a music video that I made that's like very low stakes for Bonnie Prince Billy and Bill Callahan. And I was like, oh, I'll use this as a reason to like reteach myself how to edit, because I haven't edited anything of my own since probably 2000, I don't know, 9 or something, a really long time ago.
Since Final Cut 7.
I just downloaded the free trial of Premiere Pro, and I'm like, how do I do all the things? So today is my first day. I'm like reteaching myself how to edit.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
There's something cool about learning on film. Like, it makes you appreciate the digital cut so much. Because did
you learn on film, or are you just theorizing? You did?
Cool. Had us shoot on 16 for some of our classes.
That's cool. I do think that it is like holding a minute and being like, okay, here's a minute, and like hanging it up on the thing. It's cool. Yeah.
Nothing like it. And just seeing it like projected, like through a film strip on a wall in a tiny, smelly room is the best. But yeah, no, it makes you appreciate it for sure. It's so much less.
This music video that I just made, I shot on Super 8.
Oh, awesome.
So
cool.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had that little splicer.
Yeah.
I wish I was doing the whole thing, kind of.
Yeah. We all the time, sort of, right now.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing we could do right now, yeah.
You probably have been asked this a lot, but are you touring with this one now, or do you have a new idea in the works?
I do, yeah, I do. I have a new idea in the works that I'm just starting to write. I'm co-writing it with a friend of mine, and I believe we're on page 15. We're really just in the beginnings, but we've outlined the whole thing, and that's feeling good. That's also a comedy, and is so far really fun. Really fun to be writing with someone else.
Yeah. That kind of leads into my next question about like what aspect of filmmaking is like your favorite, because it's also collaborative. The like whether or not pre-production or like the planning of it or like the shooting of it. I mean, everyone loves the shooting of it, but like
I'll tell you my 2 favorite parts, very like specific aspects of making a movie. First one is casting. I love casting, and when I'm casting the bigger roles, what I'm doing is really just meeting with people and usually I'll fly to LA and I'll spend like a couple of weeks just like meeting with like 3 or 4 actors a day and like getting coffee and breakfast and lunch, and I'm just like having all of my meals out, and I'm just like talking to people about the script and trying to find connections with people, and that process is really fun, and I love like seeing audition tapes, and I love casting. And then my other favorite thing is sound mixing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't do any of the actual technical work, but the movie is like is picture locked. And so you're just sort of like, okay, that part's done. And then you're kind of like sitting in a dark room. Usually they have snacks, and you're like just watching them like make the movie better. They're just like adding in sounds, they're improving things. You're just like, can we get some people? Maybe there's some kids playing like a few blocks away. Can you get some noise of a playground in here? And it is so gratifying. That's both of those are my favorite part.
Yeah, it's just like adding magic to the end and making it.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference. And you're like, oh my God, it sounds like a movie now. It's so great.
Yeah. It's crazy what a difference it makes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories about Kelly Reichardt is when she was mixing for Certain Women, and she and her sound mixer were in the booth, and he was trying to put like bird sounds in, and she's like, well, is this bird native to Montana where they had shot the film? And he's like, well, no. And she's like, we need birds that are native to Montana, and like made like for Montana songbirds to put in the.
Whoa, that's cool. What was that movie? What movie was it?
Kelly Reichardt.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But no, she was very, very on it. Very
yeah, that's cool.
Based. So did you do test screenings for this one when you were editing it? Or?
I didn't do official, test screenings, but I did a bunch of like test screenings in my basement with people.
Like brain group of people.
Yeah, I would bring people in and had them. I mean, they were just people I knew, but I would like come and see a cut, and I gave people surveys and stuff. Yeah.
Have you always
been helpful or not, honestly?
No, that's the thing, is like some people give really good advice and some people just say things to feel like they have to like say something.
I also had I had two different options. I had some different options for the ending. I had shot reshoot. I did some reshoots.
Okay.
Pickups. So I had the original stuff that we shot all looked great and was fine. I just story-wise had these reshoots that I also changed the story slightly. But didn't technically look as good as the stuff we had shot during production. And I couldn't tell after I did the reshoots, I was like, oh my God, which one should I use? And so I had all these, all of a sudden I had all these different combinations of what the movie could be. And so I was just showing different versions to different people and trying to get feedback. And in the end, I just, I went with my gut, which is what you're supposed to do, of course. And I found that there were almost just as many people that liked version A as version B. And it sort of didn't really in the end, I didn't really get a true consensus from doing test screenings.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. But maybe in a way it was sort of you're okay. People for the most part, I think, just accept the film for what it is. They're not oh, I wish that this had happened instead. They're sort of that's the story I'm being told. So
sure. Yeah, totally. Every time we finish talking about something, I forget the next question I was gonna.
Sorry.
I'm like, oh yes, no, this is also good. Damn. Oh, what's your favorite type of scene to shoot? If it's a comedy, or if something emotional and heavy is gonna happen, or if there are some stunts in it, do you approach one with more excitement than the other?
I think they're both kind of challenging in the same way. There is something about shooting a funny scene where sometimes it's not funny. Sometimes you're it's not working and you don't kind of know why. There's this part in the movie that was really funny in the script where where Kate is leaving. Kate goes to visit her old professor's classroom, and she hears some kids reading, And then afterwards, there's a scene with her and Jermaine Clement in the hallway. And in the script, I had written that like as she's walking out of the classroom door, she's like standing in the doorway, and kids like keep bumping past her, and she gets like shuffled like out of frame, and then like goes back into frame, and then like someone like a kid is like carrying a bicycle, and then she's like, whoa, and she like gets out of the way and like comes back into frame. And it really was funny in the script. And then when we tried to do it on the day, it just like, it wasn't funny at all. And I could not fix it. I like tried to, I was like, I don't know, maybe we lose the kid with the bike, maybe like something. And I just like, I couldn't figure it out, and it just never worked. And so we ended up just cutting it. But I feel like with comedy, there's like things all the time that I'm like, I don't know why in the script this worked and it doesn't work on the day. And that's like frustrating, and then I guess that doesn't like happen so much with the dramatic stuff. But dramatic stuff it's just like we did have a really fun set, and shooting I Used to Go Here was like a blast. And I think part of it was that it was for the most part a comedy. So like there's like a light feel on set, and I really liked that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty collaborative too. Like did you and your actors kind of go back and forth a lot with ideas and stuff?
Yeah, we didn't do much improvising on set, but Gillian was a really big part of of the film, and definitely her character. And we would talk about the script a lot, and there were certain scenes where we would like we would be sort of rewrite them together. We'd be crossing things out and rewriting them on set all the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing that with having a co-writer now, where like it's nice to bounce ideas off of a new person?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's like the best part. Yeah, having a co-writer is amazing. It's like it's great because we're talking about it a lot. So I have somewhere to put some of my ideas, and also it's like having like a gym buddy or whatever. It's like I have to work because we made an appointment to work. Whereas if I'm writing a script by myself, that's why I Used to Go Here took me like 3 years to write, because it's like, because I just don't want to. I don't have to, it's like no one's asking me for pages. I'm like, I have to be self-motivated, and it is like really hard to make myself sit down and do it. So it's much easier with someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just like having, I don't know, if writing by yourself, I know it's, you get these ideas that are like, oh man, this is going to be like so good or like so funny. And then that moment when you read it out to someone, or like when you see someone else reading it, you can already tell that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's another human here to bounce my
Yeah.
Who's your are you like super excited by any filmmakers right now that like their work, like everything they make, or like the last couple things that they've made, you're just like, I have to see this, like their work is very exciting?
I mean, there's a lot of I have so many like peers and friends that are just making stuff that's like incredible and really exciting to watch. And a lot of people that are like pushing sort of like barriers and stuff. And I mean, there's lots of people. My friend Amy Simetz had a movie that came out on the same day as I Used to Go Here called She Dies Tomorrow. Amy's amazing. My friend David Lowery's movie The Green Knight is about to come out. And I mean, there's lots of cool people that are making cool stuff, like definitely. Yeah.
Did you watch a lot of movies in quarantine? Like, do you have the list? You need to watch these films like
I'm not a cinephile. Like I didn't do the thing that a lot of like filmmakers do, which is like, and like I wasn't like a voracious film watcher in high school or anything. And in college, I was like, I'm going to be a documentarian, and I would like fall asleep. I was also a bad student, as I've already said. So like, I remember taking a Stanley Kubrick class and like falling asleep in almost every movie. And I took a Howard Hawks class that I also like fell asleep a lot in. I just like was like, I don't need this. I don't need this. But I recently listened to this podcast about this woman called Polly Platt. And do you know this podcast? It is called You Must Remember This.
Yes, love that podcast.
So the most recent season about this woman named Polly Platt, and she was a production designer, and she was married to Peter Bogdanovich, and people credit her with why his movies were good. Because he made like Last Picture Show and Paper Moon, and then he left her and then he made one other thing that I'm blanking on, and then he left Polly Platt with his wife. They had 2 kids, and then he left her for Sybil Shepherd, and then he stopped making good movies. And she went on to like keep working, and she became a producer, and she produced for James L. Brooks, and she produced Bottle Rocket. Wow. And like Say Anything. And so this podcast is really interesting. It like goes through her career, and I listened to that. That came out, I want to say, in like May or June, and I listened to that podcast and started watching all those movies, and that's been really cool, because that like I had seen Paper Moon, but I had never seen Last Picture Show. And so I started kind of in the beginning, and I just have been like working my way through those films, which has been really great.
Yeah. And there's something, I think that's what makes some of your work so refreshing, is that there's such this culture of like obscure references in film school where you're like, oh yeah, I really wanted to like emulate this filmmaker that you've never heard of, but I know something better than you. And then just referencing all these filmmakers but not really saying anything themselves. So I love it when like filmmakers didn't really start watching like, oh yes, I love Citizen Kane, or like, oh they're like, oh no, I want to tell a story about humans that feels accurate and real.
Yeah, cool. I'll remember that next time I feel guilty about not knowing anything.
No, it's super refreshing, because it's such a film bro stereotype of just like, you know, referencing all these directors. I don't know how many conversations I've had with like film guys where they're like, oh yeah, this movie, and I'm like, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like we got about 10 minutes left. I want to kind of see if anyone has any questions they want to comment or anything. But yeah, I'm giving them a little time. See if I have any more questions that I.
Okay.
I think I asked all these.
It's okay. It's okay if you don't have any questions.
We can just sit here quietly. Do we? Okay, no. So have you been in Chicago this whole time? Just kind of.
Yeah. I'm just in Chicago, hanging out.
That's your answer. Done. Got it. I'm a professional. I do this all the time. This is like my thing I do. Yes.
Wait, what is the thing you do?
Interview people.
What are your films?
My films?
Yeah.
They're my last one played 2018 South by Southwest. It was called
Cool. It was a feature?
Mm-hmm.
It's called what?
Pet Names.
Oh, cool. I would like to see it.
I can send it to you. I have your no, it's my current favorite child, although I'm in post on another one we shot during quarantine this year.
Incredible.
It was one of those things where we had no money and we're very bored and just wanted to make something because we were all stir crazy stuck in the house. So we drove to California and shot a tiny
Whoa.
movie.
What do you do to make money?
I edit. I'm actually at my job right now.
You're editing what? Commercials?
I actually typically edit documentary and then
cool.
commercials. So that's how I pay bills.
Wow. Well, congrats on doing something like film related to make money. That's cool.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, in all sincerity, this summer I was painting signs at a petting zoo. So that's also
wow. That is cool. That is like that's a really cool thing to have said that you have done.
I mean, it was my high school job.
Oh, really? Okay, so
they text me every year to come back, and this year I was like, yes, I have no work. Please, can I paint some buildings?
That's incredible. That's great.
I'm really fortunate. It's super fun. Shooter's Farm, shout out. Yeah, they have like a corn. But I mean, and I was delivering flowers for a while. Like it's just like
that's great.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Whatever pays rent.
Well, so what happened to your movie that played at South by? Did it get distributed?
We sold it to Amazon, so that was cool.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd ever sold a film, so that was
exciting. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
What was the budget of the movie?
$12,000.
Oh, amazing. Okay, cool. I want to know can you say how much Amazon paid for it? This is public forum. Twice that? That's great.
We were able to success. And like, yeah, I was like, oh, we've peaked. I made it.
Cool. So the thing that you shot in California, is that a feature also?
Mm-hmm. And it was improvised.
It was improvised. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the first one improvised too?
No.
Okay.
No.
So have you been editing it?
Yeah.
And did you also feel like, oh no, the same feeling that I always had? Where you're like, fuck, we should have planned it all out and written a script.
Yeah. I mean, we were lucky in that it was very the team had like worked together on pet names, so we all
that's good.
worked together, and through that we had more confidence going in, I think, on this one.
Yeah.
But I would argue that we had a lot of confidence going in, and then once we hit the edit room, we were like, well, we can't really drive back to California and reshoot. It's on fire. It would be an interesting plot point for sure, but kind of on the other side of the valley of depression for this movie. So
thank God. Well, congratulations. Yeah, that's great.
I was researching this, like I was reading articles about you because you gotta do my research on this. I've been familiar with your work for a while, but I wanted to like get it. But something you said about like playing Sundance and then like nobody tells you that life goes back to normal after something happens. Yeah.
Way worse than normal, because the normal before Sundance was anticipating Sundance. And so the normal after Sundance is nothingness. Yeah, that's really, I have just all my stories end in like, why do I choose filmmaking as a career? It's just like everything ends in depression.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you got to ask yourself that at least once a year. Why do I make movies?
Yeah, well, at this point, I've sort of just pigeonholed myself into it. So I don't have any other skills.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of...
You can at least paint signs.
Or deliver flowers.
I have no other experience.
but yeah, just that whiplash of like festivals are such a high in and of themselves. Like it's exciting. You're around other makers. You get to talk about everyone else's work, see everyone else's work.
Yeah, film festivals are incredible.
And then getting back from those anyway is so depressing. But if you've like reached a milestone.
Well, the good thing about like Sundance is if you're playing Sundance, it means you're going to get invited to a lot of other smaller festivals. And so you have this nice little, if you ever get into Sundance, just know that you probably, it's just going to be like cool to go to that festival. And then like, that's it. It's like, I do know people that have gone to Sundance and then like their lives changed, but it's mostly that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So as long as you know that ahead of time.
Noted.
You're fine.
Yeah. Did you ever like daydream about like what playing certain festivals or being like, oh man, it would be so cool to like have this? Because I only say because like in high school I would put the South by Laurels on all my posters just to see how they would look. And I think I think a lot of filmmakers tend to like do that where they like make the poster and be like, oh, here's my Criterion C on the corner when I'm in.
Oh my God, I've not ever heard of that. That makes a lot of sense. Wait, what was the question that you asked?
Oh, like did you ever like daydream about festivals before you like made it?
No, because my dad was in the Navy and my mom was a school teacher, and I had no idea what I didn't know what Sundance was, or anything like that when I was in high school. I had no idea I just really had no idea. I was so removed. And then in college, it was like, I barely knew. Because if I had gone to like NYU or something like that, then I would have been immersed in an environment where like people, understood the world of filmmaking. I had no clue. So no, even when our film Kissy on the Mouth, and when we were only 24 or something, when that got invited to South by Southwest, I didn't know even at the time what a big deal South by Southwest was. I was like, wow, I got invited to a film festival. And then I went there and I was like, okay, like I had no idea like what importance it had on the community or my career or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. But also like the act of making films is like I feel like the most rewarding part, because afterwards it's just, so much can go wrong in the making of the film, and like so much is like tied to that specific part of it. And so for a while I thought it was the notoriety, like just being like, oh yeah, I can say that I played at this festival, or like, winning an Oscar to win an Oscar.
Right.
But hearing about like Oscar depression, like, oh yeah, you reached that peak and now what, keep making films, like the thing whatever propels you forward. But yeah, the act of making them is, I think, the best part. Otherwise,
yeah, pretty good part. Yeah,
everything else is extra, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, it was really cool talking to you.
It was great talking to you too. It was really fun. It's cool to, this like interface really makes it seem like you're just having a conversation with one person and no one's watching.
Yeah, which is kind of
interesting. Yeah.
But you're incredible. I can't wait for your next film.
Nice. Thank you.
Hopefully I get to talk to you about it at some point.
That would be great. Plan on it.
Watching. But yeah, I don't know how to end the thing, so I'm just gonna say some words about wrapping up until the end of it. Wave bye. They told me to wave.
Okay, well, bye.
Thank you, Kris.